This is Eric Rutan of Cannibal Corpse. You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast with Andrew McKay Smith.
G'day everybody, welcome to the show and greetings from the high seas. I'm currently on the 70,000 tonnes of metal cruise somewhere between continental United States, just off the coast of Florida, and Puerto Rico, having a great time. And this chat, the one you've tuned in to hear, features Matt Wilcock, one of my favourite all-time guitarists. He's in Werewolves, Antichrist Imperium, Faustian, Abramelin. He was in the Berserker and also Acrecocker. And the catalyst for this chat is due to Shotgun Mistress. They've got a brand new single out, which you'll hear in the sec. And they've got a new album, The Can. That'll be released sometime later on in the year. But I wanted to get this chat out to you because Matt, being one of my favourite guitarists, there's always so many topics to discuss. In addition to the bands and the new release from Shotgun Mistress, we dive into topics related to extreme and heavy metal. Great to catch up with Matt. So here's the tune, Jude Judas from Shotgun Mistress, and once it's done, we'll dive into the discussion. Let's go.
Accounting for nothing, a tribute to all that we have. I'm free falling, I'm screaming from suffering, so loud I'll awaken the dead. Held tight, this prison of mine, I helped to build this cage for myself. We fight 'cause we live in a lie. Is there someone that could bring me some help? Jude Judas, you left me high and dry. You left me here to die. Jude Judas, I'm in the firing line. You left me here to die. There's no escape, no time to waste, so don't waste your time on these old mistakes. So don't buy your lies, you can't buy my time. No matter where we break and the time it takes, the less we make, the choice we make, it's better off we say goodnight. Jude Judas, you left me high and dry. You left me here to die. Jude Judas, I'm in the firing line. You left me to die. It's better off in the end. Try to reset all of it. Try to make it on our own. Want you out of my head. On my deathbed, I'm ready to leave you. It's better off in the end. Try to reset all that we've been through. I want you out of my head. I'm on my deathbed, I'm ready to die. Jude Judas, you left me high and dry. You left me here to die. Jude Judas, I'm in the firing line. You left me to die. Jude Judas, Jude Judas, Jude Judas, Jude Judas.
Brother, how are you, mate?
Man, how are you?
Happy New Year and all of that sort of stuff to get things kicked off.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, another year gone.
I know it doesn't much change, does it? You know,
Yeah, I don't know.
it's
Wake up on January 1st and you think, oh well, just I don't know. I mean, I went to the gym actually I had to go to work quite early on the New Year's Day, which was a bit of a
shit.
Yeah, only for a bit, but yeah. So I went to the gym sort of straight after that, and I thought, it's a start as you mean to go on. So
Yeah, you got to do what you got to do to keep the to keep the funds ticking into the bank account, haven't you, mate? That's the other thing. Especially when you're a muso. Yeah, no, that's it. But I mean, look, for you, it doesn't feel like, the years are just a calendar thing for you insofar as your approach to releases and playing music and the like, because you're just pumping them out.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep busy, man. I'm a bit fortunate at the minute because I've got a bit of a backlog of stuff to be released or to sort of be recorded or to be finished. So yeah, I've got quite a lot of material that's either about to be released or various people are about to start recording their parts or things like that. So yeah, I'm ahead of schedule, which is a good thing. It's nice to have a whole lot of stuff in the pipeline and be ready to go.
I've asked you the question before, and I know you've given me an answer to it, but very few people have your wellspring of creativity, the ability to make means of the riffs that you've got within you, and a lot of stuff just ends up on a cutting room floor somewhere. But with you, it feels like as though you've got a very good pipeline between your creativity and an outlet for it.
Yeah, maybe. I think there's a few things I'm passionate about, be it death metal or black metal or just sort of hard rock, I guess, and, regarding Shotgun. And I'm pretty good at channeling whatever mood I'm in or whatever I set myself to do. I can sort of generally just do it and get a whole lot of stuff. It's funny, even just yesterday or the day before yesterday, I was talking to Dave just about the new Werewolves stuff, and so we've got another album written, and he's going to go in at some point in the first half of this year to record the drums for it, and he's got all the demos, all the clicks and guides, and all that sort of shit, and he said to me, he's like, oh, one of the songs. It's cool, but it's a bit more suited to Faustian, which is the black metal thing that we're doing. Yeah. And he's like, I'll record it, but I reckon that song, this one particular Werewolf song, we should use it for Faustian. And I said, yeah, cool, man. I'll just, that's fine. I'll just write another one. So, yeah, like a day or two ago, I just sort of sat down and thought, I've got to write another Werewolf song, So, I think it took 2 days. I think it's been a while since I've necessarily written anything, so it took a little bit just to get those juices sort of flowing. But it's the same old story. Once there's just one idea, once one thing happens, bang, the rest just comes. So it's like I sit there for 5, 10, 15 minutes, and if I can get one good riff, then the rest just falls into place.
I bet it does. Yeah. Yeah, I bet it does. Yeah. Well, I mean, you already mentioned Faustian there. Look, both of that album and the so We Come as Angels is the name of the album you released toward the end of 2023, and My Enemies Look and Sound Like Me. I did a top 10 without actually doing it in order, but they both made that. I put them sort of in there equally because I figure they're both coming from your hive of creativity. So, but how do you when you're writing a riff? Are they, when I say they're just riffs, of course, they're rolled gold. They're coming from your imagination. But at what point do you know, to Dave's point, at what point do you know, this one's going to go in this direction, that one's going to go in that direction?
Well, Faustian was a very deliberate, sort of move that we made. So we wrote those songs. I was talking to Dave, like, it's a couple of years ago now that we wrote that album. And I don't exactly know how we came up with it, but we had this bright idea to just make a black metal album. Both of us, despite him, obviously Psychroptic's his thing, and we've got Werewolves and abundance of other things. But we're both pretty passionate about black metal. It's like, let's make a black metal band, or at least make an album. So that was that Faustian album was a very deliberate sort of approach. It was like, this is it's a black metal album, so it's got all those typical tropes, everything that you can imagine that is black metal. That's what we did. And we went for production-wise as well. We went for a very different approach to Werewolves. Like it's a lot rawer, a bit nastier. It's just a bit more horrible, really. And so that there was no question that all of that material was definitely not for Werewolves. But I guess just in this sort of demo stage of this album that we're going to start recording this year. One of them just turned out a little bit more geared in that direction, really. We sort of try with Werewolves, we try and do a ballad per album. When I say a ballad, I just mean a fucking slow song, not something that's 250 BPM the whole way through.
Yep.
So the quote unquote ballad, instead of being necessarily slow, it just turned into a bit more of a black metal thing. So yeah, in response to that, we just thought, we'll use that for the other album and would write something else. But yeah, like as far as creativity goes, it was just sat down. It's been a while. I haven't written anything for, I don't know, probably a year maybe. It's got such a backlog of stuff.
Yeah.
But so it took a little while to get it all happening. But yeah, once you break the seal, then it all happens. So
yeah, you're doing what you're meant to be doing with your life in that regard, I think, because some people can sit there all day and try to write a song, or all year or what have you, but you just seem to have this, it's like a tap. And yeah, it's sort of, or a tanker, like we've got these tanks, here around us, and rains and they fill up with water, and, that's sort of like an analogy I can use for your creativity, that it gets filled up and then you turn on the tap and out these riffs come.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about Shotgun Mistress then. Now, you sent me the album quite some time ago, so I've been listening to it a fair bit. And look, I like everything you do, but if I had to pick a favourite, Shotgun Mistress is probably would have to be it, I'd say. I was so taken with that debut album that you did. And what the guys came up with. There's just something about a metal guitarist who knows how to write rock music. Just special. And there's just not enough of it. There's plenty the other way around. But a full-on metal guitarist who really understands what makes heavy metal, extreme metal, probably more to the point like you do, turning their hand to riff rock like what you do, and it's tight, it's hard. You've basically taken what I think at his very best Mick Mars would do, and you've just added a lot more high octane to it. Okay, with a much better band than what Motley Crue could ever be around you, to be quite frank. But save the hate mail, dickheads. Don't worry.
No comment.
all the blabbermouth fanboys out there, or whatever it might be. But look, a fact's a fact as far as I'm concerned, and that's how I see things. But with this album here, Kings of Revolution, I'm not prepared to say it's necessarily better than the debut, because the debut made such an impression. But I will say one thing now. I feel like as though it's harder and faster. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. It seems to have turned out a little bit more heavy metal than the first one did. With the first one, I sort of made a bit of an effort with everything that I wrote for it. I made quite an effort to sort of be different to what I've done before. So I tried to make a rock album. With this one, I was a little bit like, you know what? Like, I'm not going to sort of necessarily try and mask what I am or what I do. I'm just going to write songs that I like. It's not to say that I don't like the first album, but even from the most basic sort of building blocks of the first album, there's riffs on that album that I wouldn't write, that I wouldn't put on an album now. It's just it was maybe a little bit not necessarily me, and I guess I'm quite into the idea of doing something that's true to yourself. So I don't want to play music that it doesn't mean something to me, or it isn't sort of authentic to what I'll do. So perhaps this second album, the parts that I've written for it at least are maybe a little bit more closer to what I actually am. I know the production's definitely turned out sort of heavier and bigger than we thought, than I thought it would, which is pretty cool. I'm glad that it's different to the first one. It might also be I use quite a bit. I use a different sort of I use a different setup for guitars than what I did for the first one. In a nutshell, the first one I use Marshalls. And the second one, I use 5150, which is what I use. And I'm like, what's the fucking point of, I might as well be who I am. So it's a heavier guitar sound for one. And also that we got, what else was it? Yeah, so Sam, who mixed the first one, he mixed this one as well. But we got it, this time around, we got it mastered by Joe from Psychoptic. And
so Dave's brother, for people.
Yeah. So he does almost all audio stuff that I write or release. He's involved in some way or another. He's really talented in fucking everything he does. So yeah, he mastered it. So it really kind of slams. It's a really powerful sort of release. But it's just I think the songs and the album in general are probably stronger and probably harder than the first album. I guess we're settling into ourselves a bit more as a band, sort of finding what we enjoy doing as opposed to just throwing a whole lot of songs in the mix. It's a bit more of a combined effort. The first one, I pretty much wrote probably 90% of the riffs, whereas this time around, Ben, who plays bass, he contributed quite a bit. So there's a lot more of our combined songwriting, which is really cool. It's there's a couple of songs where, there's at least 3 that he has written sort of in their entirety, but I might have added in the bridge section or just sort of done my own thing a little bit more so with the guitar parts than what he originally had. And it's a lot more satisfying, if for it to be sort of more of a combined effort, it's a bit more rewarding in the end, I think, because for a long time, like I've just written all the music that I do. I haven't really sort of shared much stuff with people, like maybe in other bands, someone else has written a song or I've written this song. It hasn't necessarily been too much where it's an amalgamation of the two of us. So, and that's, that's not a good or bad thing. It's just the way it is. But it's good that there's a bit more of a team effort maybe with this Shotgun album. Everyone's really happy with it. It's a weird one because it sits in. I don't entirely. It's weird because it's kind of like we don't exactly fit in that metal crowd, even though the album's sounds pretty hefty. But we certainly don't fit in the sort of commercially rocky, poppy sort of fucking world either, because it's too heavy. So it's a weird one, but I think it's good. I think it's a good combination of real singing for once, and he's great. Glenn's a great singer, and the parts, all his vocal lines and melodies are fucking fantastic. So it's it's good, but we're all pretty happy with it. It's turned out really well.
It has, man. You're all to be congratulated on it. And I think I've mentioned this to you in the past, but I've got to mention it anyway as another point, which is that I've seen you guys live, as you know, and you're an extremely tight live band. It's always what I look for, and I think a lot of people, fans, musicians especially, are like this. You want to hear the songs added, a new dimension added to the songs, and you guys definitely do that. And I believe what you've done is, from what I heard when I watched you guys live, you've even upped the ante further on this recording again. So I can't wait to see you guys live again based on like what you're talking about. You're using the gear that you want to use. This is a more authentic version of what you guys are. So when you guys come up here, because I know you're coming up here for Glamfest, and I'm certainly going to that one there. I
Nice.
think you'll way more than hold your own against the other bands that are on that bill.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, that's a weird one, playing a glam fest, you know.
I know, I hate that name, to be honest with you. They got to call it something ridiculous, haven't they? But
Yeah, that's cool though, you know. Like it's, I'm very happy to be playing it, you know. But it's just, it did make me chuckle a little bit. The name, so
but it's not really glam, is it? I mean, you're not glam, and most I don't.
No, but I mean, you know, all of
Slaughter
the
aren't glam. I
all the
never
real
thought of
bands, quote unquote, are. I mean, what is the
Slaughter is
yeah,
the
Slaughter
headline.
and Lynch Mob are the main ones. Yeah, I mean, there's 80s rock sort of thing, I guess. But it's cool. It'll be interesting. I think the tickets are selling quite well, so
Yeah.
should be good.
Well, Silverback put it on, and they've got a good track record with this sort of thing. There's a lot, as you've seen, there's a lot of this stuff that gets booked and bands that like the one that Kip Winger was supposed to be at that then sort of disappear, and God knows what the hell happens with that stuff there. So, you know, and it's nice to see Jungle Rodder coming back as well with Rotting Christ as well. I'll actually be down in Melbourne for that show because I didn't want to.
Okay.
I wasn't sure if they were coming up here or not because.
When's that?
Oh God, I couldn't tell you now. I'd have to look it up. But the same thing happened with Incantation. I mentioned to John that I had to. There's no other option except for me to fly down to Melbourne or Sydney, and I'll always pick Melbourne. It's just a more interesting place to go with better food, to be honest with you. And I know a few more people down there these days. So, but yeah, no, it's great that you're on that one there. I think whoever booked that one did their homework, actually, when I looked at you guys and a few of the other bands that were on. So did whoever runs Silverback, did they reach out to you for that, or can you tell me how that gig came about?
I think we've been pestering them for a while to get on some shows or to do some supports or something. And yeah, finally they were like, "Oh, cool, you can, you know, get you on this." So yeah, a bit of pestering, a bit of hassling, and yeah, they've put us on the bill, so that's good.
Yeah,
so it's a good incentive to, you know, for us to really sort of hammer it, because if we, you know, obviously we want to play a good show, and we should, but yeah, it's nice to be sort of given a bit of an opportunity to play it, because it's like I say, it's a good one, you know, a lot of good bands, so should be cool.
Yeah, I'm just checked here now, just in answer to your question about the Rotting Christ and Jungle Rock gig, which Dave will be at actually with King. That's Melbourne Death Fest, and that date is Saturday, 4th of May. So there you go.
Yeah, I did know that, actually. Cool.
It looks like a good one, but mate, we just can't rely on. Apparently, Brisbane is a shocking sell these days. You know, bands that aren't doing that well when they come up here. So, Jesus, it looks like I'll be travelling a lot more down to Melbourne if the trend continues, at least anyway.
Yeah, it's a weird one. It's a bit weird, like this year as well, like especially like with metal anyway, because there's so much on. There's so many tours and shows and everything. And to be honest, you know, I don't know if people just what's going on in the fucking world or the country primarily. I just don't know if people have got the money to just keep going to all the shows and stuff, you know? It's like, if you've got tickets to, I mean, I know Suffocation are coming out, and it's like, well, you've got Suffocation and you've got Rotting Christ, and you've got Obituary this week, or
yeah, exactly.
I'm not sure, you know, when this is airing, but yeah, Obituary at the moment. And you know, there's a lot of stuff, not to mention Knotfest, and obviously everyone's gonna want to go and see Pantera. And I'm sure those tickets aren't cheap. So, so many shows and so much stuff happening all in the coming months.
Yeah, I just spoke to Chris Broderick just a couple of hours ago, actually, and they're down here with he's in Flames these days, of all bands.
Okay. Yeah.
And they're down here with Creator in February. So to your point, mate, like, do you remember when we were kids? Like, there'd be like one tour a year. Like Sepultura would come out one year, and then Pantera would come out the next year, or Megadeth or whatever. That was it. That's all we got.
Yeah, I remember it well. I also remember that when I left Australia to go to the UK, it seemed that year that I had left, that's when all the death metal bands came to Oz. I was like, oh, great, I can leave the country, and everyone finally comes here, because I hadn't seen Morbid Angel when I was living here. When growing up, I never saw Morbid Angel. I think I was too young when they first came out or something.
Yeah, same, yeah.
Yeah, but it's there was a period I remember seeing Pantera and Slayer and Cannibal Corpse, and I don't know if they were in the same years or whatever, but it was an event. It wasn't as if there's something it's not as if there's one each month to go and see. It was like, well, this year it's like this is happening, or I think maybe it's a long time ago, but I reckon I saw Slayer and Cannibal in the same year.
Yeah, 95. I remember that. Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
But it's all guns blazing now. There's constantly things happening. So, and life ain't cheap. So there's only so many tickets you can buy or festivals you can go to.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. But it alludes to something else. And look, the release strategy for these things, can you talk about, well, what can you talk about with regards to the delay in the release with the Shotgun album?
So it took us a long time to do it. I think there's nothing particularly untoward or strange about that. It just took time, the drums were done only over a year ago. And I don't even know now, but yeah, it just took a bit of time to record guitars, and I know the bass took a little while simply because Ben lives far away and just rehearsals were a bit difficult at the time.
Yeah.
And then just the usual sort of thing with mix, the mix, it's just like, I change this up, this, down, that, and then a bit of in-band sort of, I wouldn't call it arguing, but I'd just say sort of assertive conversations about whether this should have a solo or whether there should be singing here or, just arrangement ideas. And then we gave it to we sent it to Golden Robot or Crusader, as we sort of were on. And basically they didn't reply to us for months. So, I think looking at the so we're releasing it independently. And after having sent it to them and waiting for like a month and not hearing anything back, I think contractually we were able to do what we wanted after that. So after not hearing any sort of yes or no or sounds great or sounds shit or anything, we were like, oh, fuck it then, we'll release it on our own. So that in turn has taken a little bit of sort of planning and work to figure out what and how and who and scheduling everything. It's a bit between the first single release and the album release, it's a bit of time, which is sort of just the way the cookie crumbles, I guess. But I guess just there was a whole lot of waiting and then trying to figure out what we're going to do. We shopped it around to a couple of other labels. We got a couple of sort of snippets of interest, but it wasn't particularly from anyone that we wanted to go with. Mm-hmm. So after a bit of tossing and turning, we thought, you know what, let's just release it ourselves.
Yeah, it's always best. Yeah,
that way we're in charge of it. We know what's happening. We can make sure that we're selling, vinyl, CD, streaming, whatever, wherever, however we want. So that's how that sort of worked out. Bit weird. It was a bit strange to not really hear anything from the label for such a long time. The label that did the first one, but in hindsight, I think it's for the best for us. So it's good.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so you're doing the Bandcamp thing, and to your point there. So you got CD, vinyl, and you're doing cassette as well, that sort of thing. Are you going down that route? No,
just vinyl and CD. We obviously want to do vinyl. Label never wanted to. It's the rock world. I'm not entirely sure. I know that vinyl and physical in general in metal is a really big thing. And I'm sort of yet to see vinyl. We've done we've done all right on the amount of shows that we did over the course of the first album. We sold quite a lot of albums, and I guess this time around, like we've had pre-sales up and they're doing all right. So as long as they keep ticking over, and then we just keep playing shows, I think we'll move a bit of stuff and take the next step, hopefully.
Yeah. Do you know if you'll have vinyl for sale at the Death Fest Glam Fest? Sorry, Death Fest.
Oh, no, not yet, because it's I don't think the release is till June.
Oh shit! Okay.
Yeah, it's quite a while off, but I think because there's a number of film clips and singles and that sort of thing coming out sporadically leading up to that. So yeah, it's a bit longer than I would have liked, but again, that's just sort of how things work in this world, which I'm not really au fait with.
So you got Jude Judas, which is almost out, isn't it? It's coming out at the end of this month, isn't it?
Yeah.
You got a snippet of that on Instagram and on socials and stuff at the moment.
Yeah.
But that'll be available for people and look, I'd say that that's a great song and it's definitely emblematic of what the rest of the record sounds like. But there's a lot of other highlights right the way across it. But I think,
nice.
I think you'll do a great job at Glamfest. It just depends on how many people are there and if they're paying attention or not is the other thing. Because you know how it is when you go to festivals. Sometimes they can, not knowing a band, it's not even about you guys. It's just sometimes they use that as the opportunity to go into the beer garden as opposed to stick around and watch what's going on.
Yeah, well, especially if it's a long day, you know. I think it is probably going to wind up being a fairly long sort of day. So, but, you know, we'll just do our thing and hopefully it goes down well.
Did you notice after you did the what was the name of the band, the Canadian band? We caught up. Jesus, we did. Archspire. God, would never have got it. But Archspire. Did you notice a bit of a increase in your online presence and sales after that?
I'm not sure about sales. Streaming numbers might go up a touch. I mean, the thing with that is that's those shows, those Archspire shows. So we did 5. I think we did Brisbane, Sydney, Canberra, Melbourne, Adelaide. And more so than streaming numbers or online presence or any of that sort of shit, we sold a fucking shitload of merch.
Nice.
Probably the most merch that we've sold in any sort of stint. Like we did all right with Mayhem, like earlier in the year. But but those shows were fucking great. Like I was just sort of quite amazed, like how much stuff we actually moved. I think maybe that might have been due to the fact that we had 4 albums available on the night, whereas Archspire and Ingested didn't have any albums. They're only selling T-shirts and long sleeves and all that sort of shit. Probably just due to the fact that they had flown. You know, you can't be taking 200 records on a plane or shipping them over. It's all a little bit. It's a lot easier for an international band to just have T-shirts. You know, they can get printed here. It's cost effective. Blah blah blah. So we sold a lot of stuff and probably sold a lot of albums because we were the only act that was selling records and stuff on the nights.
Yeah,
and but we did really well with T-shirts and everything as well. But I think like all those shows are pretty much sold out. So it's like, I just think that fucking heavy metal fans are into having a souvenir from the show, you know, and it's just kind of cool that us as the opening band still, you know, people still have a bit of interest, you know, because obviously everyone's there to see Archspire primarily and then Ingested as well. And then, you know, you've just got us that are sort of the opening the show. But, you know, we did really well. So sales, online sales and all that sort of shit, I don't know. But merch sales on the nights were fucking through the roof for us, which is pretty fucking amazing. So, yeah, it was good. Success on that front.
What I noticed too, just in the, you know, I don't know how long we were catching up for, but it certainly wasn't all night. You know, it might have been half an hour to an hour or something like that. I mean, you had one bloke come up to you and ask for your autograph on the record. You had two or three other blokes just say, man, I just want to thank you for the great show. I think I saw Dave being, accosted by a bunch of people too when he was trying to walk back to. It's why I didn't walk up to him and say g'day, because I think he'd already been punished enough. But that's what I noticed too. So the key, and this, the key to heavy metal and extreme metal is to be out and about and being in amongst the people who are actually buying the stuff. Interface, I call it the actual primal interface, and actually doing that. And it also helps too that you're a fucking awesome live band. It's brutal, but like I've said many times here, I can actually hear what you're doing. And that's an art form with extreme metal, because there's a lot of stuff that just sounds like, Portal is one thing, and I get that I understand that's their thing, okay? But there are other bands where it's just white noise, and there's a lot of that shit out there. And it's like, okay, I get it. You want to be more evil than thou and all the rest of it, and you want to be blindingly fast and all the rest of it, but this shit wears thin after 15 minutes or something. But what I noticed with you guys is that you can actually have you on in the car too, which a lot of extreme metal you can't do because you're competing with the road noise from the tires and all of the other associated traffic noise and all the rest of it. So it's certainly not melodic, but it's listenable, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I think that's there's probably two things with that. It's maybe three. One is that it's just one guitarist, so it's a lot easier for me to just be airtight with myself. Two is we've got a bit of a formula with the songwriting. Like, that band is entirely not about being clever. So there's no overly tricky riffs. There's nothing that's too fiddly that's going to get lost in the mix. It's all pretty straight down the line. And the final piece of that puzzle is the fact that, again, Joe Ailey is mixing everything. He mixes and masters it all. And, fucking quite often it's almost as if maybe there's a bit too much clarity with it. It's like, sounds amazing, but perhaps it might be more suited.
I can hear everything.
If we're a little bit like, might be more appropriate. But songwriting is sort of key with that band, even though it's just fucking caveman, fucking noise. It's still very much about the song. So the one that we've got an album coming out this year, which is we just finished the mix for maybe December, I think we finished it, and then we've just got all the label's got it now, and it's due for release this year at some point. But there was a fair bit of we went through, me and Sam particularly went through a bit of that. We're like, we've got to really hone these songs down, like trim the fat, keep them simple. Like, there was a couple of moments where it's a bit like we'd have a song that's almost moving into And Justice for All sort of territory. So this doesn't need to be 5 minutes long, If it's going to just blast the whole time and be mental, let's try and get it down to the sub 4 minute mark, so people don't just get overwhelmed by the fucking noise. Yeah. So trim the fat, keep it sort of neat and tidy, arrangement wise, I guess, and production as well. It all sort of adds up, and that's I guess that's where the clarity sort of comes in, maybe.
Yeah. Well, you've got Antichrist Imperium for that aspect of your writing as well. That's certainly the way that being familiar with all of your outlets, Antichrist Imperium is very much about light compared to shade and dark. I'll describe it. So have you got something else on the horizon for that band as well?
Not at the moment. The last one was quite difficult to write and to finish. And it's just like it was hard work. Turned out amazing. Like, it was a good album, but at the moment there's just I haven't even really thought about trying to do that. And I know that Dave and Sam from Antichrist and also Ackcocker, they're both playing in Anal Nathrak now. Yeah. So they're pretty tied up with a bunch of shows and a bunch of rehearsals and all that sort of shit this year. So Antichrist is on the back burner for the minute. I just don't have it in me to try and top the last album.
That's understandable, God, with everything else going on. And look, I'll edit this bit out if you want or what have you, but can you talk about what's going on with Abramelin as well?
Yeah, so Abramelin album it's pretty much recorded and it's pretty much mixed. We've got another vocal session just of sort of fine tuning. Maybe he's going to double a few parts or add a few extra screams and grunts and growls and shit in there. But yeah, again we've done that. So that's turned out it sounds fucking it's fucking so heavy. It's amazing. It's really good. Again, Joe's mixing it. Just sounds fucking monstrous, which is really cool. Me and Dave have been listening to it a lot just to sort of having to think about it and stuff and how it sounds and whether the songs are sort of cool, and like we're both on the messages to each other and it's like fucking hell, it sounds monstrous.
Nice, yeah.
So that's really exciting. I know that the cover art is being done. Well, at least that several versions of cover art have been done, and we'll wind up using one that's that's not going to cause too much offence.
That's what that band's all about, though, isn't it?
I guess so. But yeah, it was somewhat to our detriment last time. But yeah, there's the covers of the artwork's done, and the artwork's fucking incredible as well. It's turned out really well. So I'd like to sort of say that it's going to be released. I'd like to hope that it will be released in the first half of this year. But again, that sort of comes down to like labels and schedules and all that sort of shit. But as far as the mix and the mastering goes, I would imagine that it'll be done, finished, line in the sand by the end of January.
Yeah, well, I hope you guys tour on the back of that too. I hope there's some shows that you can work on with Dicey.
Yeah, we've got a plan happening for it. So fingers crossed, things fall into place, and yeah, we can make it work.
That's a sweet spot for you guys. That were like you and Dave in particular. I'm talking about like going and doing these supports to the Arch Spires and the Obituaries of the world. That's with Dicey. Like it almost seems like if you guys aren't on the bill, it's a bit of a disappointment at this time. Across all of your bands I'm talking about, you've got so many opportunities in which you can do that.
Yeah, well, I think the only thing that really matters is that any of these opportunities that arise, they're appropriate. Because if it's not appropriate, then it's fucking terrible. Like the last thing on earth that I'd want to do is be playing on a bill that's not right. Like there's plenty of like sludge metal bands, or there's plenty of black metal bands or fucking thrash bands that should be out with a thrash fucking headliner or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think, there is different things like, I think the Archspire one, for example, like, Dave and Psycho, they've toured with them. So there was a personal connection with that.
Mm.
And, like we are different, but we're not too far removed from the Ingested sort of sound. So there was an appropriate sort of bunch of shows. But, yeah, it's great to be able to do them. But yeah, the last thing on earth I want to do would be sort of oversaturate the market with things that shouldn't really be there at a certain sort of situation,
Oh no, I'm hearing you. I guess I'm biased though. I enjoy what you guys do, and I think a lot of the veteran music metal fans like me, guys like me, and well into their 40s and 50s and stuff. At a certain point when the smoke and mirrors get removed, we don't care about face makeup and all the berserker stuff anymore. The berserker makeup I'm talking about, all the rest. You just want to hear grinding brutality played by musicians who really know what they're doing, and it doesn't really matter the vibe. It's just you want to see that approach to it. That I've long called your approach a precision approach. Once you get that, it's very hard to sort of step down and hear those bands that have, the doomy, sludgy shit that I sort of alluded to. And where was it? Which gig was I at? But Ian Redmond. I was talking to him, and he ended up having to mix one. Who was it? It was before I Am Morbid. That's right. And he wasn't throwing me under the bus at all. But I said, "How'd you go? With that band?" He goes, "Yeah, it was tough, man." I mean, this thing was just, it sounded like all bass, and it's not Ian. It's just the way the band is approaching everything because of the way that they've got their various tones set and the type of music that they're playing, but there's just no dynamic in it. And I'm not even throwing them under the bus. I'm just saying that, like, they're going for a particular vibe, and it's not a precision vibe. It's more of a doomy, smoke-filled room sort of a vibe. And I honestly feel like a lot of people can take that stuff for about 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and then that's it. As an audience, we're done.
Yeah, I think most things you could probably only deal with for so long. Like I can't imagine. I don't think I'd like to watch a band like Werewolves for any more than 30 or 40 minutes. I think any more than that's probably start to grate on you a little bit. But I mean, I remember the first time I saw Judas Priest. It was at the Palace in Melbourne. It was with fucking Ripper Owens, actually.
Yeah, I remember the demolition. Awesome. Yeah.
But their show went for like fucking, I don't know how long it went for. They played so many songs. And after a while, as much as I love Priest, it's like, you know what? I think I've probably had enough now. I don't need to stand here anymore. And so I don't know. But, any like doomy, sludgy stuff or whatever, there's a vibe to that. And, maybe from the sound guy's perspective, it's a bit harder to wrangle maybe that uncontrolled sort of chaotic sound. But there's a vibe and,
But you know what they're doing? They're so predictable. Like you hear this, it's like, then it's doom, 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 and you're like, oh, don't, just stop, please. I know. Yeah. Yeah. And they do that for 5 minutes, and then eventually there's a, like that doomy vocal thing, and it's like, guys, come on. We literally every band, like you can go to, the venue here, King Lear's Throne or whatever. I haven't been into it, so I shouldn't even say that, but I imagine they're the sort of bands that play there and get around town and stuff. It's like, I just think it's had its moment, that stuff, to be honest. And a lot of the bands on the Sentient Ruin label, they do that really well. So they're pulling bands from around the world and do it. So when you see local yokels doing it, and look, more power to them, honestly. More power to them when they're doing it. But yeah, as a seasoned fan, as a listener, and I made this point with Chris Broderick before, you just want to see bands who are sort of upping the ante a little bit.
Yeah.
And to your point too, I'll make this point quickly. Too much of a good thing can be way too much. And I agree with you about Werewolves. 40 minutes would probably be about the limit. But mate, Extreme played for 2 hours or something, and it was too much.
Yeah.
They played with Living Colour, mate. And I can tell you, I don't know how much finger tapping you can take, man. But Jesus, there was way too much from Nuno on that one.
Yeah.
It just happens, and you just go, Paul McCartney of all people was the absolute worst because he played for over 3 hours.
Yeah, fuck that. It's too much.
Oh, it was torture by about the hour and a half mark because my mother-in-law's into him, and I'm like going, I don't want to fucking be here anymore.
I think, there's also a lot to be said about maybe, I don't know if it's fucking stagecraft is the right word.
Yeah.
I think Archspire are fucking masters of that. So that band, that front man, has got so much charisma on stage. He's talking shit and telling jokes about each other. And I mean, whether you're into that sort of on stage sort of banter or not, I don't know. But their music is so full on that like that dead stop and then some fucking silly joke or some comment that he makes is almost like a little bit of a reprieve from the fucking chaos that you've just witnessed.
Yeah.
Tight sort of machine gun, like fucking insanity. But then, for him to sort of, I don't know what they were doing, stupid things like getting people up on stage to fucking shotgun beers or whatever it was they were doing. It's all very amusing. And then all of a sudden, bang, it starts again. Another 3 minutes of fucking insanity, music-wise.
Yeah.
It's all in how it's delivered and whether you're into it and stuff, I guess.
Yeah, you got to be into that stuff. I'm not into Archspire at all, I've got to say. I reckon I took about half an hour of it before I had to leave. And I was legitimately shocked by how popular they were. That line for that night stretched. It's probably happened before. I'm just saying I've never seen it personally before. Went around the block.
Yeah,
that
wow.
line for you guys and for Archspire and Ingested. There were some pretty normal looking people, you know, like you wouldn't see them at metal shows normally at that gig. And I thought, have they crossed over and picked up some of the Triple J crowd or the 4 Triple Z crowd or something like that? Have they? Because there were some people in there that I would, you know, you see the sort of same faces constantly when you go to some of these gigs, you know, and the same T-shirts and stuff. And there were people in there in some pretty regular looking clothes. So they must have crossed over at some point, but fucking hell, mate. For me, yeah, I respect enormously what they do. It's not about that. It's just that, you know, do you want to have curry tonight sort of thing? And the answer is no, you know.
Yeah, no, it's amazing to see like so many people at a fucking death metal show in Brisbane on I think it was a Wednesday as well, you know?
Correct, yeah.
It's like fucking the people are there. It's just a matter of getting them out.
I know. I sort of said I caught up with Dicey that night. I said, my fucking God. Like, I had to ask, I said, how do you know these things are going to be successful or what have you? And Mayhem and Satyricon and, you know, the leading lights, I totally understand, you know. The people who dust off their battle jackets from 1998 for that stuff. But there's more recent and modern bands, so the post-millennium bands that have sort of built up their rep around metalcore and stuff. I'm not saying they have, but, you know, they'll get a lot of those same fans is what I'm saying, because I see the T-shirts. You know, you see the deathcore Job for a Cowboy T-shirts and shit, and that's not really my generation, if you know what I'm saying. So you see that, and he mentioned a couple of things that I thought, fuck, isn't that interesting? You know, but who would have picked it? It was Wednesday night in Brisbane, which is not really known for putting on a good turnout for these shows. There's great shows that are coming through town. I've been through plenty where it feels like there's less than 100 people. But I suppose timing meets opportunity meets the type of band, and there you go.
Yeah, I think also that the Soundworks dudes, they're pretty sort of in tune with what's going on in the world musically. Like they know, you know, they know the bands that are going to do okay and the ones that are going to do better, and they wrangle things, and they've got a pretty good idea about how things are going to go. I think, you know, they're in tune with what's going on in the world musically, I guess is the best way to put it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm hearing you. Yeah. So next stop is Glamfest up here, mate. That's when I look forward to catching up with you next, I suppose. That's it, isn't it? Unless you've got another gig up here between now and then.
No, that's the next one. Yeah, so that's Melbourne on February the 16th, I think. Brisbane on Saturday the 17th of February, and Sydney on the Sunday. So yeah, it should be good. Yeah, it'd be busy, be hectic. Like I say, I think the tickets have sold quite well so far. So yeah, looking forward to it. We're looking forward to playing a few new songs. We've been sort of doing the same set for I guess for the last 12 months or so now. Like I guess since you saw us, which is, God, it's a while ago, but
2 years ago now. I think, God, it's gone by if it has, you know, a year and a half ago at least.
Yeah, I think a year and a half. But yeah, we've added a couple of new songs, but as of now, we're pretty much with the new album sort of happening. We've got a few extra songs that we're putting in the set, so it's all quite exciting. Looking forward to getting out there and playing.
Well, there you have it. Another conversation with the great Matt Wilcock from Shotgun Mistress and many other bands. Always enjoy catching up with him, as I shall also do when I attend Glamfest. That's the show that features the great George Lynch as well as Slaughter, in addition to Shotgun Mistress and many other groups. I'll put the dates and a link to tickets in the episode description. All right, so that's it from me. My name's Andrew Mackay-Smith. I'm the host of the Scars and Guitars podcast. There's some information that I want to share with you about my book. It's a couple of years old now, but well worth investigating. You can download an e-copy or you can order physical, print on demand. Some more information to share with you about that book in the sec button. Till next time, it's a goodbye for now.
This is Eric Rattan of Cannibal Corpse. You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast with Andrew Mackay-Smith.
I've been the host of the Scars and Guitars podcast since 2017. The first musician I interviewed for the show was David Vincent from Morbid Angel, and things have just snowballed from there. In all, I've posted almost 650 podcast episodes featuring conversations with many of the leading lights of rock, heavy metal, and beyond. It just got to a point where I thought, I need to write a book about all this, so that's exactly what I did. In Scars and Guitars Volume 1, you'll read a heap of deep reveals and commentary, such as Des Fafara talking about Coal Chamber and why the band will never return.
You know, if you're a band just starting out, you need to hear me. Do not start a band with partners. Ever.
Yeah, wise words, sage advice, mate, for anybody.
Don't ever, because I can't go do Coal Chamber right now unless I get others involved.
Phil Anselmo talks about the episode in his career which gives him the greatest sense of accomplishment.
I think the staying power of the fans and the staying power of the songs, you know, whether it's Pantera, Down, or Superjoint, the fans remember the songs.
Alex Skolnick from Testament confirms that, yes, playing the guitar in Ozzy's band is anything but an ordinary gig. Will Silent Oz from Dimmu Borgir write a book? Pa from Sabaton gives advice to people who want to start a band.
Look at the team around you, look at the bandmates. If the guys want to be on the stage, then it's all cool. If the guys want to be backstage, then it's not going to be cool.
Current and former members of Cradle of Filth discuss the band's seminal 90s material. Read about the reaction to George Lynch and Mark from Suicide Silence's comments when they throw shade at then President Donald Trump.
We have this idiotic monster, you know, this egotistical, self-aggrandizing, complete piece of shit in there. I just can't understand how we've gotten to this place.
And yeah, we kicked a hornet's nest with Sepultura. Percussive overlord Gene Hoglan talks about recording with Chuck Schuldiner.
Chuck was always, he was very open-minded, and he was into having his musicians that were playing with him just reach out for the best stuff that they had.
Phil Campbell from Motorhead discusses what it takes to get sober. John Five answers his critics who dismiss his tenure with Marilyn Manson.
You know, my name is John Five, and Manson gave me that name, and I had some of the best years of my life in that band and learned a lot. And
we get the lowdown on Treyarch Zagtoth from those who would know, including his mother. All across Scars and Guitars Volume 1, there are moments of tension, relief, tragedy, exhilaration, and throughout it all, you'll obtain insight that I believe no one else has managed to obtain from many of your favourite artists. So treat yourself. Scars and Guitars Volume 1 is currently available as an ebook with a print edition on the horizon. Follow the links attached and download a sample. I'm sure you'll be compelled to read the whole book.